Sounds
Well,
weirdly
thank you,
judgmental.
everyone, for being coerced into being here. I appreciate it.
Happy to be coerced, my friend.
I didn't even know this was happening. I just turned on my computer and found you guys waiting for me, and I'm thrilled.
Yeah.
It's really a delightful
What
surprise.
are the odds?
We're
That is
always
freaky.
we're just always lurking on Zoom, waiting to talk about this. Whoever comes into this.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, like, should we all go around and just say our name? I don't know. Is that a thing that
Yes,
we should do?
we should do that.
I'm Josh Gad.
Hi, I'm Patton Oswalt.
I'm Jordan Blum.
Max and I are the Berkowitz brothers.
I love it. You said my name. Thanks.
Yeah, I'll say your name for you.
Nice.
He doesn't want me to talk. It's okay.
We are so pumped to talk about the writer and Minor Threats universe, which you guys have now built.
Brought to you by
which
Dark
is
Horse.
Brought to you by Dark Horse.
I feel like there should be a Dark Horse expanded. I know that the books are about to come out, but I feel like it's not too early to start talking about like a larger crossover universe in which our characters occupy the same world and fight the same villains.
Say the word. We'll do it. We're in.
That would be the ultimate challenge, is to somehow tie in literally every single Dark Horse property, including the stuff that they've licensed from movies and TV, and make it all make coherent sense. That would be incredible.
Because that's
I think it's worth the challenge
right now, right?
Yeah, exactly.
I want to first hear about like Minor Threats and kind of like how you guys came about this, and then like we can kind of go into like the writer a little bit.
This started off for us as I had an idea for a Batman story, but I was expressing my frustration, like, I'm gonna bust my ass on this thing, but you're still working with a major publisher's IP, and it's eventually it's not yours. And then Jordan just said, let's just make our own universe from the ground up, and we completely retooled it.
Yeah, I think because we were just coming out of doing the MODOK show, and we did a MODOK comic, and we were like, we haven't had enough C-list villains yet. We need more. But we have a shared love of these characters, the ones that were kind of created in the Silver Age or Bronze Age to show up, get beaten up, kind of the villain of the month, and they're just jobbers. They don't have these lofty goals of taking over the world. They just want to like pay their alimony and grab a beer at the local supervillain bars.
Right.
And we've never seen kind of a big superhero blockbuster, but told from the perspective of these blue collar villains on the ground level.
I mean, it came from two comic book nerds going, but why don't they do this? And then we're like, wait a minute, we can do this, so let's go do it. So
Can we talk about your creative process together, you two?
Sure.
Do you guys meet in person?
Yeah, our comic's about the writer, so let's talk about the writing process.
Exactly.
Well, how do you guys, I mean, do you plot together and then write? Or because a lot of Jordan and I, we're writing tomorrow, it's like sitting, let's plot out all the beats, and then we start breaking it up. And then we still leave something for the artist, who we think of as our cinematographer. A comic book script is very much like a film and TV script. And we are very open to the artist going, guys, you could actually pull this off a lot better if you make it one giant splash panel rather than all these little boxes. This will be way more dynamic and dramatic. And we're very open to that, which I love. Does that happen for you guys? Or
I feel like that's exactly it with Ariel.
It was like really collaborative. We all plotted kind of like the story together in each issue.
Right.
And then, when we all went into the writing, then handing it off to like Ariel, because like he loves as minimal panels as possible, which is
really
hard to write to.
But like, were there story beats? Because I've had this before in my head where I'm like, this has to be in these three boxes because I need it to land like this. Like, and so there's a little bit of, back and forth, like arguing about it, or
I think the most arguing actually came down with the final page in issue 4 in our final issue.
Really?
Yeah.
And who won?
It's
who won?
Ariel won.
America won.
Dark Horse won.
Now, Josh, I'm assuming, is this your first foray into the world of comic books?
It is 100% my first foray into the world of comic books. What drew me to this story was actually these guys approached me. This wasn't something that I dreamed up. It was them coming to me with an idea that felt like it really spoke to me in a profound way, and felt like the right medium to tell the story. I've always been fascinated with mysticism, mythology. You know, my favorite movie, which I've spoken ad nauseum about with you and others, is Raiders of the Lost Ark.
Oh yeah.
And the kind of mythology, and specifically the Judaic mythology that's built into that, the story of the Old Testament, the story of the Ark of the Covenant, and the forces that are unleashed from it, became a kind of a springboard to create a character called the Writer that draws upon all of those same mystic stories that we haven't really delved into. So I was really drawn to that, and I was really drawn to this character of Stan that the boys pitched me. And it was your idea, guys. Take the credit for it.
I mean, it was a very loose idea. I mean, like, originally we had kind of like, we had seen this sort of trend where these Jewish characters in comic books, as they made their jump to TV, their identities were kind of getting sidelined a bit. It's fine, but we could do a little better.
But you're right. There's a tradition of sort of kind of like being tokenism, a moment here and there.
The medium is built by Jews, like it's Siegel and Schuster. It starts there.
Yeah.
And all the way to Bendis. There are so many Kirby, all these Jewish creators, but the characters didn't always reflect that.
Since you mentioned Siegel and Schuster, when they created Superman, people forget the world was headed toward World War II. People in America, especially Jews, were seeing the rise of Hitler. You're like, oh my God. So creatively, there is this almost a cry of anguish and anger of like, is no one seeing this but me? Like you see that in Captain America, Superman, all these characters like that that very much informed it.
And Superman's origin story was literally like the story of Moses. He was forced out. He was sent away by his mother as an infant. He lost his homeland, adopted by these strangers, and raised in this new world. So, Superman over the years kind of lost the Jewish elements a little bit, but it carried over. But then like with the comic, we also there's also been like a trend with Jewish storylines in comic books where it's always about the Ring of Solomon or always about King Solomon. So we kind of like played into that a little bit, the all importance of the ring, which people will see how that plays.
Well, this is a promo piece. Give us the pitch. Give us the pitch.
Pitch it to us.
Okay, here's the pitch. Ever notice how stories, films, books, TVs seems to always focus on like the wildly successful writers or the total failures? What about the guys in the middle? So we created Stan Siegel, a comic book writer who's not the best, but definitely not the worst. He's comfortable until his life is flipped upside down by a, of course, neo-Nazi occult nightmare. So now Stan's not just writing about folklore and magic, he's actually living it. This whole book is inspired by rich Jewish traditions and comics, and we've spun our story, with the Ring of Solomon, King Solomon, golems, and dibbuks. But of course, Stan's not alone on this journey. He's got his tough, loving mother and his daughter, who's a brilliant young girl who could not be more thrilled by this real-life comic book adventure. But she's battling a mystery that adds a twist to their journey.
So we have all of them. They dive into demonic chaos and high-speed chases.
It's a saga that mixes the mystical and the familial, Indiana Jones adventuring, turning the everyday into the extraordinary. So there's the pitch.
We know it's got a lot of overlap with your property, and we're sorry about that. We don't want you to think we've stolen any of your ideas.
I think the more overlap, the better. I love the idea that these universes bump into each other. I am very much of mention our world and your world.
Well, we're about to unveil our Jewish deli themed villain, who I think would be the perfect character to cross over.
Amazing.
Yeah, what he does is you order a sandwich and he just keeps making you wait like another week to get it. He's like, I will definitely have it next Tuesday. You can just wait, and then you're just stuck in this loop.
What's funny? Actually, Stan's character in our book was inspired by your character, Patton, in King of Queens. The fact that he lives with his mother.
Yeah.
Giving advice?
Very much. Yeah.
Again, that character is based on a guy that the creator, Michael Whitehorn, knew in real life. Maybe one of the most brilliant guys I've ever met, but just not really able to function in the world. And it was kind of interesting that they leaned into it without making it a cliche. Like, that's a very real thing,
right.
You know?
There's also like a tradition in, Jews who take care of their mom, even though they'll guilt you and drive you nuts.
Yeah.
Is there a character entering the Minor Threats universe that's similar to MODOK?
Oh, wow. I mean, here's the thing about MODOK. He is someone who, in his mind, should be A-list. He hates the other villains, maybe even more than the other heroes. Because he's like, oh, they list all the top villains, and it's what, Dr. Doom and the Green Goblin, and where am I? I'm down here with Stiltman. That's ridiculous. He's this guy that thinks he should be in on the A-list, and he's not.
I want to see MODOK fight Krang at some point. Like, can't there be like some overlap there? Can MODOK go into the Ninja Turtles universe?
The thing you got to remember about the comic book industry, it's no different than professional wrestling. If they can, if slapping something together gets butts and seats, they'll friggin' do it. That last WrestleMania was basically Avengers Endgame. That was all of them sitting down last year going, okay, so for this next year, your character's going to turn evil. Your guy's going to do, and then like they map it out the same way that they do retreats on, comic books, or the way you guys map out your 4 or 5 issues. It's the same thing. It's fascinating.
I was talking. Do you guys know the Ass Man, the wrestler? Do you remember him?
What? No. Who the hell's the Ass Man?
The Ass Man.
Billy Gunn, the Ass Man.
Wait a minute. Are you sure this is wrestling you're watching?
I swear to God.
It's on OnlyFans.
No.
If I just Google Ass Man,
Billy Gunn.
redirect me to wrestling, you're saying.
Yeah, Jordan, don't Google Ass Man.
Don't Google.
Are you watching wrestling? Are you watching wrestling on Netflix or YouPorn? What exactly?
I have a question for you guys. Your artist is amazing, Ariel Olivetti, right? Is your artist? How did that come to be? How did that collaboration start?
Through a DM.
Man. Literally through a DM.
Really?
I was convinced. By the way, I was convinced there was no way on earth you guys were going to get him. There was just not a chance. And when he agreed to do it, I was shocked.
This is what we do. We push and push and push.
Yeah. We harass. I flew to Argentina. No, I sent him a DM and like a little description, and he was like, "We love the concept. Ariel's fully on board." And yeah, he's incredible, and he moves so quickly. It's like insane.
Wow. All right, so most of our comic is based in Boston. You all are not from Boston. I want to know what you feel and how you feel about people from Boston.
This feels like a trap.
Yeah.
One sentence about people in Boston.
Am I separating sports fans from?
No, you're no.
It's all inclusive.
No, you've got to bring that up.
Well, look, I love Boston. I've spent a lot of time in Boston. I shot a movie in Boston called 21. As a fan of Florida sports, I have a tough time with Boston sports just because you guys always dominate and kick our butts, specifically in football and now in basketball. So it's tough, but I'm also appreciative of the legacy. But yeah, I love Boston. Great place.
I think it's the most attractive accent.
Oh my God, yeah. I mean, ladies love sonic waves that can peel paint. That is a plus. Josh, you've read film scripts, TV scripts. I'm sure plenty of plays and musicals. Since it's your first comic, was it striking to you how very much this is like screenplay writing, or how did that feel?
100%. The whole thing was so foreign to me. It was terrifying and exciting. I didn't have the upbringing of growing up with comic books. It was something that was just truly foreign to me as a kid, strangely. It wasn't until 1990 when I went to summer camp and a friend of mine introduced me to Dick Tracy.
Oh my God.
Because it was the summer that Dick Tracy was coming out. And so he had like a stack of Dick Tracy comics. And I was like, what the fuck is this? And it's a strange one to sort of like open and go through.
Yeah,
But yeah, so suffice it to say, I was a late bloomer. I have always envied your proximity to comics and your just insane encyclopedic knowledge of them. I've always been a consumer that's a fan, but not a rabid consumer. So for me, prepping for this, I fully immersed myself for the first time in this world, and it was completely exciting, invigorating, and terrifying because it's like learning a new language.
Yeah, but there's envy on my side too, because there's comics you're going to get to read for the first time that I have reread 900 times, and you're going to experience them, and you're going to see things. And it's also interesting how so many actors and writers and other mediums are realizing, like Paul Dano, apparently he did a Riddler origin comic for DC, and it was all of his character notes for the Riddler, how he got the way in that movie, and they did that as a comic book, and it's fascinating. Really? It's like reading his preparation notes, but he formed a whole crime story out of it. It was kind of amazing. And this sounds like something that just been in your head for a long time, that you're like, I've got to get this down on paper. How do I do this?
Well, I always knew that I wanted to do something in this space, but could never find the right way in. And when the boys brought this to me, it was a no-brainer. It was one of those things where I'm like, yes, like it just felt personal. It felt unique, and it felt thematically rich, and also, dealing with a heritage and a culture that doesn't get much attention in this medium.
As Jordan was saying, the thing that's the basis for the medium has had a lot of light put away from it, which is weird.
And by the way, it's why Adventures of Cavalier and Clay is one of my favorite books of all time, because it's all about that.
Jordan, I just have one question. So between writing TV and comics, do you find one you enjoy more?
Well, I think, as you'll find out when the issue is in your hands, the immediacy of comics is wonderful, where you can be stuck developing and rewriting and productions and reshoots, whatever, for a very long time, until that thing exists in the world. Where comics, it's coming out in a few months, and I think that's amazing. I think also kind of it's kind of intimate. It's Patton and I writing this thing that only really the artist sees, and it's the three of us, and then and the letterer and the colorist, and having it be kind of such a small scale thing is really fun, and it's very hands-on. So they all have their different kind of upsides, but I think there's just something so cool about, like, I have a comic rack now behind me that is my comics, and they're there.
Holy shit.
Yeah.
Did you guys set out with envisioning a certain number of issues, or do you just, are you going to do it as long as you're inspired?
Well, it's funny, Pat and I were just talking about this, and someone else is like, oh, did you have the sequels planned out? And we're like, we write every issue and every series like no one will ever let us write comics again.
Yes.
And I think that makes for the best stories, because we don't hold back. We're not like, oh, that's a good set piece, save that for later.
We're not writing with the franchise in mind. You write it like, this is such an immediate event. That's what gives it more life to do more stories off of.
Just like with Josh, he agreed to like 800 issues, right? With us.
Yeah, I said anything under 850 feels like we're not going overboard, and it feels doable.
Look, he's a busy guy. 800, you got to put a cap on this stuff, man. The guy's doing
it. You have to respect my time, right? You have to respect my time.
Yeah. But I think once we found out that they were going to let us do more, we kind of knew where the story was going, and we really listened to the characters, that kind of stuff, which I think is actually really true. We were surprised at where we ended Minor Threats Volume 1. That heel turn took us even by surprise. So the idea of what's next, we've never seen a low-level villain rise to the queen pin of her super criminal, empire. It felt like, what's the next day, and that's kind of how we followed the story and plotted out from there.
Were you writing it, envisioning it for other mediums, or were you always writing it with just an eye on, this is what it wants to be for now, and if ever we're inspired to adapt it, so be it?
Yeah, we just wanted it to be a comic book. We wanted it to be an awesome comic.
We love working with Dark Horse Productions as well, and they were like, great, let's take it out. And we were like, I don't want to have that influence on the comic. Let us figure out the best version of the comic first, without thinking about it as a pilot. So we did that first, and it was, I think we got the purest version. Because I think that's, to me, the fun is, what are the things I can only do in this medium that I can't do in other mediums? Embracing captions, using page layout, and all that kind of stuff that is so specific to this kind of storytelling. That's the stuff that excites us.
We did the opposite. We wanted it to only be a movie, so we sold the film rights before we ever wrote
just
a page.
Storyboards,
and
right?
We actually started making toys before the.
I do not open the Microsoft Word document until we sell the log line. When we've hired caterers, that's when we'll start writing this thing.
Amazing. This was spectacular, guys.
This was really fun. When does your comic drop? When's the first issue out?
The first issue of The Writer is coming out June 19th.
June 19th. Get your orders in now before FOC on May 13th, but issue 1, June 19th.
Are you guys doing signings? You guys doing Comic-Con?
Oh, yeah.
You hang at Comic-Con?
Oh, are you going to San Diego this year?
Yep. Are you guys going?
Oh, yeah.
We will be there. Josh, have you ever seen any sexy Olaf cosplay?
I have.
Oh, yeah.
Do you know, by the way, who did that once for a concert? Do you guys know the artist Taylor Swift? More indie kind of. She's a tortured poet. She did a sexy Olaf cosplay in concert one year. That was it was like 2014 or something. Yeah. So yes,
that's amazing.
When is the next? So I know Barfly. The next Barfly is coming out, and then the next.
Yeah.
Threats.
So Mind the Threats, The Fastest Way Down, which is volume 2 of the main book, will wrap up in July, and then Barfly launches out of that, and then we're gonna have some cool announcements that I will spoil for you guys after we get off this soon.
Yes.
Amazing.
Yes.
All right.
Amazing.
All right.
Stop recording. Let me hear.
Yeah, Ben,
Boom.
Stop it.
Here. All right. Thank you, everyone.